And he said, slow growth equals strong roots. And I hated it at the time. Like, don't pick a mantra like slow growth equals strong roots unless you're ready for life to make you live that. And it very much has the last, that would be probably nearly 20 years ago. What happens when you grow very slow and steady like that is that you are building a foundation that becomes pretty unshakable. You know, a weed, it's very tempting to go, you popped up overnight with dizzying speed, you grew to dizzying heights, but you pull those 6-foot weeds out and it's like, boop, little half-inch of roots is all they can stand on. And so when we got to where we were going in our previous business of photography, nobody questioned that we were in the room because respect preceded our name. Because we took our time getting there and we took our time doing it right. We didn't cut corners or try to, cheat our way to the top. So I think like he has really sort of spoken into me and now is doing that on a pretty daily basis in this new endeavor of being an author when it's not happening as fast as I want it to, that's probably because we're going to go far.
Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Well Coached podcast. We've got a super special guest today, Miss Mary Marantz. She is a best-selling author. She's a podcast host. She's super smart. She's a Yale Law graduate, and she has dedicated her life into helping others and define their story, step into their purpose, create clarity for themselves, and embrace courage. She's got a great new book out. It's called Underestimated: The Surprisingly Simple Shift to Quit Playing Small, Name the Fear, and Move Forward. This is going to be so much fun. This is a love letter and a field guide to anyone out there who's ever doubted their own worth, hidden their gifts, or just delayed their calling in general. So Mary's going to push us right through that, and I can't wait to talk about it. So as usual, we will stay in our 4 lanes of people, sales, profit, self. And with that, Mary, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. Chris, thanks so much for having me. Just from chatting even a few minutes before we jumped on, I feel like we have very similar stories. And it just felt like an instant friendship. So.
Yeah. As part of Mary's journey is, I'll sidetrack a little bit, is that she grew up in a single wide trailer. And so did I. I grew up in a single wide trailer too. And you picked up on that when we first came in. Yeah. She said, I kind of knew that about you. What spidey sense was I giving off?
Yeah, I mean, I think spidey sense is a great way of saying it. I was saying like there's just this element of like game recognized game,
Yeah.
And the new book Underestimated opens with a quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which is a beautiful quote that really kind of boils down to beautiful people do not just happen. And it's like the most beautiful people you've known, they have experienced hardship and suffering, and they had to fight their way out of that. And so I have that quote there. And then I go on to say, hard story people are my kind of people. It's the kind ones, the quiet ones, the ones so often overlooked, that this pain, like progressively finer grits of sandpaper, has rounded off our hard edges. And I can't explain it, but as soon as I started publicly talking about growing up in a trailer, it's like when you meet someone, you can just kind of tell. You can either tell that they grew up in a trailer, or they didn't grow up with a lot, or that there's just been hard parts of their story, because beautiful people don't just happen. And from the second I met you, I just felt safe and like welcomed. And I felt like you were somebody who sees people. And that whole intro of the dedication ends with, here's to the ones who have been overlooked. It has turned you into someone who sees.
How about that?
Yeah. So
how about that? That's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to get us back on track. We're going to start in the people section. So, and you write that one of your quotes is in the book is that hard story people are your kind of people.
Yeah.
And how, as you step more boldly into your own story, how have relationships changed, and what does that even mean, that hard story people are your kind of people?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you kind of the inverse, actually, is that there was a long period in my life when I felt sort of some angst with easy story people. I sort of felt like they hadn't had that experience to have the pain, like progressively finer grits rounding off the hard edges. So they still were kind of bumping into people without even realizing, and sort of leaving these death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay.
And I grew up with a best friend at the time who I perceived to be an easy story person. They had the nice house. She got a car when she turned 16. And so for a long time, I would have given anything to swap places with her. But I think for me, wisdom started to take root when I realized I wouldn't give up my hard story if it meant I would have to trade every bit of wisdom and kindness and empathy it gave me in the process. But at the same time, while like having that wisdom to embrace my story, I still had kind of some attitude about what I call like easy story people who had everything handed to them.
Right.
In chapter 4, which is Second Guessing is a Missing Handbook, I talk about how there are those of us who feel like we never got this handbook that was just dropped into the laps of other people one night over dinner. Chad, pass the mashed potatoes. And oh, by the way, make sure you understand compound interest.
Right.
And so we spend our whole lives feeling like we're missing the information that other people have. But here's another layer of wisdom that's finally started to land is that we're all hard story people when you add in the variable of time. It might not have happened yet, but people I used to think of as easy story people, when you add in the variable of time, they've now had those things that have happened to them that have rounded off the
Does
hard
that mean
edges.
that if you live long enough, tough things are coming your way?
Yeah.
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 Sometime in
That's not a
business,
threat,
I relate
but-
that to. Sometimes I have this little saying that every business is either in a crisis, headed toward a crisis, or coming out of a crisis.
That's right.
Is that fairly similar to?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. You know, if we
Okay.
live long enough, life's going to happen to all of us.
Yeah.
And then we get into whole kinds of conversations of like feeling like I thought I'd put in my time of having hard stories, 0 to 18, growing up in a trailer in West Virginia. And so it hit me really hard. We were also talking when we were, about to hop on that my husband and I have been trying to start a family for 11 years. So when I hit a new hard season, I was like, listen, my hard edges feel great. Like I don't need
Got
any
it.
more of this. Yeah. Thought I filled my quota. But we add in the variable of time and life's going to happen to all of us. Yeah.
You've had some support systems behind you. Who has spoken into your life, and whenever you have felt stuck or overlooked, how do you move yourself through those things?
Yeah. 2 answers come to mind. The first is Grandma Goldie. I talk about her a lot in my first book, Dirt, which is sort of the story of growing up in a single wide trailer, ending up at Yale, these larger than life characters of my dad, who's the logger, my mom, who actually leaves when I'm 9. And that becomes kind of a big full circle
Wow.
moment. And Grandma Goldie, who was 5'2", but a towering force in our family tree, dandelion for hair. She was infamous for saying, I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself. But she was one of the people who saw in me goodness I didn't think was really there. Like a vision of me that was attributed to me by her that I didn't think I'd earned. And they say that if a child has just one adult who will see them and will call out in them where they're headed, it can change the whole trajectory of their lives. And I had several. I had my Grandma Goldie, I had my dad, who was putting me in these workbooks before I ever went to kindergarten. I was at a 6th grade reading and a 5th grade math level.
Wow.
To be prepared to go to kindergarten. So there were big expectations. And we can get into the pressure of all that. And then fast forward, it would be my husband, Justin. My second book is called Slow Growth Equals Strong Roots. And he's the first person who ever said that to me. And he said it to me a year into our photography business when all these people who had started around the same time we had, or even a little bit after us, their businesses were just taking off. And I felt like we were, trying to do a sprint through molasses, basically. And he said, they're running a different race than us, which I heard, you're not as fast as them. You're not going to go as far as them. But what he meant was they were running laps and sprints and we were running a cross-country marathon. We were going to go far. And he said, slow growth equals strong roots. And I hated it at the time. Like, don't pick a mantra like slow growth equals strong roots unless you're ready for life to make you live that. And it very much has the last, that would be probably nearly 20 years ago at this point. But what happens when you grow very slow and steady like that is that you are building a foundation that becomes pretty unshakable. A weed, it's very tempting to go, you popped up overnight with dizzying speed, you grew to dizzying heights, but you I bet you did this in North Carolina as a little kid. Did you pull those 6-foot weeds out?
Yeah.
And it's like, boop, little half-inch of roots is all they can stand on. And so when we got to where we were going in our previous business of photography, nobody questioned that we were in the room because respect preceded our name. Because we took our time getting there and we took our time doing it right. We didn't cut corners or try to, cheat our way to the top. So I think he has really sort of spoken into me and now is doing that on a pretty daily basis in this new endeavor of being an author. I say new, but it's 5 or 6 years into it now of when it's not happening as fast as I want it to, that that's probably because we're going to go far.
How powerful, especially with a lot of folks in today's younger generation are seeking that instant gratification.
Instant, yes. Yeah. Like
And
if it doesn't happen overnight, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
That's the message. Yeah.
I wonder if that'll ever swing back, because you're right. I mean, long and
I
steady
hope
wins
so.
the race, right? I mean,
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I always think about some of the young people today, they're swinging for the fences for that instant gratification, and how stressful and anxiety ridden you must be if you
Yeah.
don't get it.
Right.
Right.
Right. And I talk about in Underestimated, we come back to this concept of overnight, and it's like a little section that says overnight is overrated. And I list out some, like, I think I list out 5 or 6 cracks in the foundation when we try to pursue overnight. And it's like, one of them is like, if something happens to you overnight, then you think it will always be that easy. So the next time you do face hardship, you just want to, like, you haven't built up that grit muscle. You just want to turn tail and run the first chance you get. And when you pursue something and it happens overnight, ironically, this thing that was sort of a windfall that you really had no control over, it makes you think it's all about you. Whereas when you grow slow growth style, the work has a chance to work on you and to humble you and to round off more of those hard edges. And you might actually spend 10 years or 20 years getting your hands dirty building a thing, only to arrive at the end with the humility of, I was never alone in this, you know? I mean, I'm not really sure where your people are on this, but for me, like, I've known from a very young age that God had a plan for my life, and that even when it didn't seem like anything was happening, I was not alone in it.
When you were growing up for the first 18 years in the trailer, did you know it was hard then or not?
Oh, okay. I love this question. You had mentioned before we hopped on, like, we didn't know.
I didn't.
You didn't know that there was anything wrong with it.
Mm-mm.
I would say that I did, but the only reason is because of that friend that I had.
Okay.
You know, I don't think
You had a comparison.
I had a comparison very early.
Okay.
And we were also very much the generation raised by the TV. I'm sure you can kind of relate to that as well. So I had these pictures from, like, Full House and Who's the Boss. And it's not lost on me that I now live in Connecticut, like they did on Who's the Boss, and I have golden retrievers like they did on Full House, because we start to fill in the gaps of what a good life looks like if we don't feel like it was modeled at home, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
You write vulnerably about fear and failure, and how can today's leaders create safe environments for their people to do the same?
To be vulnerable about
Yes.
failing? Yeah, you know, I think it's just this idea of, like, failure's not fatal. And I think there is an idea that the goal with fear is to never be afraid. Chris, I'm afraid, like, every day of my life now. Like, everything I'm doing right now, I'm afraid. You know, as kind and welcoming and wonderful as you
You're
were.
good here.
Oh, good. Like, I'm in Nashville, you know. I usually travel with my husband. I'm here by myself. I'm taking the Ubers. I'm going to the things. And so every day I'm doing things that really stretch me. And I do feel afraid, but my brain is starting to recalibrate it as well. I feel excited because I'm doing some of the coolest stuff of my life. And so there's actually a science to this. It's something called Bayesian brain theory. We talk about in chapter 7 of the book, Overthinking is an Orange Safety Cone. Every chapter, for everybody watching at home, tackles a different face of fear. So we have perfectionism, people pleasing, procrastination, overthinking, imposter syndrome, even a fear of success, which we could talk about. But Bayesian brain theory is also called predictive brain theory. And it is the idea that your brain is actually an incredible prediction machine operating on all past inputs and data. And it's constantly updating its models, but it knows with great accuracy whether you will succeed at something or not before you even try. And if it thinks you're going to fail, then it will, like, it's called an amygdala hijack. It will actually divert you to a low cost, low effort, quick reward win. So this is why we do instant gratification things like write something on our to-do list we've already done just to mark it off instead of sitting down to figure out how to write a book. But because it's constantly updating with new data, if you start to train yourself to do small and increasingly bigger, hard things you don't know how to do, and you're going to figure it out as you go, your brain will update. It will go, oh, we are people who can do hard things. We are people who can figure it out as we go. Okay, I'll update the model, and it won't hijack you that way every time you try something new. Yeah. So that's pretty fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey everyone, Chris Weinberg here, and I want to take a moment to talk about something real: men's mental health. Society places a ton of pressure on men to perform, to provide, and to always hold it together. But the truth is, 6 million men in the U.S. struggle with depression every year, and far too often it goes undiagnosed. Let me tell you, it's okay and it's normal to struggle. The real strength is found not in bottling it up, but in opening up. Talking about what you're going through isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage. Whether it's to a friend, a family member, a coach, a therapist, speaking up matters. Now, I've seen firsthand how powerful therapy can be. It's not just for overcoming major trauma. It's about learning positive coping skills, setting boundaries, and actually becoming the best version of yourself. That's why I want to tell you about BetterHelp. With over 35,000 therapists and more than 5 million people helped worldwide, it is the largest online therapy platform, and it works. BetterHelp has a 4.9 out of a 5 rating from over 1.7 million reviews. What I love about it is how convenient it is. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, and if you ever feel like you want to switch therapist, you can, no hassle. It's therapy that fits your schedule, not the other way around. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can connect you with a mental health professional that fits your needs. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/wellcoached. That's betterhelp.com/wellcoached. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the sales part, because we are all trying to sell what we're doing. How do you balance being so vulnerable and authentic in what you're up to in your marketing and still making the clear invitation that we're selling something?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I feel like we're seeing the market shift where people are craving authenticity. And that's a word that gets used a lot. I was using authenticity before it was cool, and it's like one of those words that's been said so much.
Yeah.
We don't know what it means anymore. And what I am seeing and what I'm hearing from people is that when they're talking about authenticity, they're talking about actual, real, true authenticity. I'm a huge believer that we are wired with a BS meter, right? That spidey sense that tells us whether somebody's being the real deal with us or not. And people are just so exhausted from the show online. And it's not even the show we think of like perfectly curated or like, the most put together person in the room. We now know when people are putting on a show of being vulnerable. Brene Brown calls that like a vulnerability fire hose, where we're going to kind of force connection. We're going to force intimacy by dumping it on other people. You'll see people do this where something really hard has just happened in their story, and without any processing at all, they just go put it on the gram because it's good engagement. And that's harmful for our souls in a lot of ways. But bringing it back to sales.
It comes across so fake on social media with these influencers. I'm having a tough day. I want to tell you about it. You can tell. You can literally tell when it's a staged event.
Right. Yes. 100%. And so it is in every way. And I'm very thankful. This is one of those moments where we can be really thankful for our limitations. I am a true introvert. And so it takes all of the energy that I have in the world just to show up as one version of myself.
Okay.
I literally don't have the capacity to put on any other versions. And so who you get with Mary is in person, is online, is in the books. I write how I speak how I write. And I used to think that was a thing that was going to hold me back. Because, you hear speakers who go on stage and they have like their sort of Sasha Fierce version of themselves. And I just don't know how to do that. And I thought that was going to actually hold me back. But in a world that's grown like almost like sugar sick, like we've eaten a bag of marshmallows and we feel ill. We are craving something of substance. And so I think introverts are having a moment. I think like the people who don't know how to fake the funk are having a moment. And so I don't try to be like a tricky sleight of hand when I'm selling to people. I tell them why I believe this is actually going to change their life. So I had a friend once, Antonio Neves, say, we should be able to talk about our own stuff with the same excitement that we would recommend Hamilton to somebody. And I thought that was so good.
How about that?
And that's how I feel about this book. Like I feel like it's like I've just watched a season of the best show ever, and I want to watch you watch it while I watch your face.
Okay.
Because I know how good it's going to be for you. And I just want to I can't experience it for the first time again, so I want to watch other people. So I think when you really truly believe in your bones that what you've put into the world is original, it is excellent, it moves the conversation forward, it makes good on the promised transformation. You wrote the thing or built the thing with the end user in mind, and you actually care about their lives enough to say there's going to be like my friend Hannah Brencher calls it a Sharpie mark slashing through the calendar, a before and an after. I truly believe that if you put that kind of excellence, not perfectionism, but excellence into the world, then you can talk about it without it being slimy or sleazy or weird.
Okay, in your business, is there one thing that you've done that really moved that needle, or a strategy that got things going for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to walk people through what I call a positioning exercise. And the positioning exercise is I am blank because I am not blank. And the tricky part about that, Chris, is that both blanks have to be arguably good things. So you're not allowed to say, oh, I'm good because I'm not bad, or I'm talented because I'm not a hack. You're sort of finding the things that you as a company, you as a creative are willing to take a stand on that reasonable people could disagree with. So in our photography, for example, it was, I am someone who believes classic never goes out of style because I am not trendy. We were not somebody who was going to give in to the trends of photography or the trends of fashion. We were somebody who took a stand that says, we did have color images, but mostly we were known for our black and white photography. So I am black and white because I am not known for my color photographs. And I heard a quote once that was like, if you want to remember what someone wore, show it in color. If you want to remember how something felt, show it in black and white. And that's a really beautiful statement that takes a stand on something, right? Because it's basically saying, are you going to think about the pretty flowers or the pretty little boxes on the table? Or do you want to strip away all of those distractions and just remember what you were feeling in the moment? And I showed this picture of me dancing with my dad at my wedding, and how when you strip away the distraction, your eye focuses right in between the black and white, and the way that, light was being used in that image, you focus right in on the scars on his hands. One scar in particular that he got injured by a chainsaw.
Wow.
My junior and senior year of high school, we were really butting heads with one another a lot. We felt sort of like we were being, ripped apart in our relationship, and he got hurt. And every night for 6 weeks, because he is my dad, and some people listening are going to know this, that kind of like, we work hard. No, unless we're dead, we're going to work.
Yep. Yeah.
And so he would come home with grease and mud caked into that wound, and I would clean it out and rebandage it for 6 weeks. And when it healed in the shape of an M. And we always joke that I left my mark on him. And so when you see that photo in black and white, you zoom right in on that scar that stitched us back together again, right? So when you can kind of tell powerful stories that are not, because with human beings respond to stories, we're moved by stories, we remember stories, but are not just stories in a strategic, selfish, sleazy sales way. They actually tap in like this umbilical cord root to the thing that made you start doing what you do in the first place. Like, what's the but why moment? And so if you can say, I take a stand on this, that I believe this is what matters, not this, and reasonable people can disagree, then you have like a Coke Pepsi situation, an Apple, Android situation, and you start to give people a reason to go, you are my people. You believe what I believe. So you can take that positioning statement and turn it into a we believe statement, a story of why you do what you do. And then those people, the idea is that so this positioning is level 1. The next level is you want to make sure it passes what I call the lukewarm litmus test. If you are presenting yourself and your work in such a way where you have carved off all of the extremities, run to the middle, carrying your own buckets to water yourself down to appeal to the most people. As the poet laureate Niles Crane said on Frasier, mediocrity is the hallmark of popularity. If we cut off everything about our work and us that makes us interesting so that most people would look at it and go, meh, maybe, this very lukewarm response, then we have already lost the battle. We have already failed. And so we want to have a positioning statement. We want to run hot on the edges of what we stand for. And the people who love you will love you all the more. And the people who don't, we're never going to get it anyway. So either one is a win. And doing that early and often so that you're drawing your people who are your people closer to you. You're supercharging them on fire for what we stand for. And you're letting those people who were never going to be for you fall away faster.
Let them go.
Yeah, let them go. That's right.
That's a great answer. What about now? How do you measure your success now, like beyond profit dollars? How How are you measuring your success?
Well, I'm just going to think about my whole life for that one. I think it comes back to I want to build a life that feels better on the inside than it looks on the outside. And, chapter 14, we mentioned earlier that fear of success. It talks about, I think your people are going to really resonate with this. So maybe you've even talked about this on the show. I don't know. There's the survival to significance hierarchy that a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're beginning their businesses, will go through. So in the beginning, you start, and then you're in survival mode. You're barely getting by. And then you get a little bit more and you are stable. You're in stability mode. A little bit more than enough, and you are in security mode. And then people start calling you a success. And then at the top of the hierarchy is significance. And my whole life, my whole career, Chris, I thought, picture stacks of Legos like a bar graph, all connected, that looks sort of like a mountain. And there's a big running mountain metaphor through the whole book where we feel like we're pushing a boulder up the mountain over and over again, just to blink at the last minute. We lose our grip, we lose our way, and the boulder rolls back down the mountain. I thought if you just kept pushing hard enough, eventually, with the variable of time, you would move from success to true significance. And as someone who's felt overlooked my whole life, there was nowhere else I wanted to arrive than significance. But about 3 years ago, I was standing in my living room, my second floor living room, looking out the window at the water. And this picture flashed through my mind as quickly as like a slide advancing, like a Kodak carousel, Don Draper slide. And the picture was that there was actually a speed-worthy, it's finished on the map gap between success and significance. And that as we're pushing up that mountain, gaining momentum, we're going to take a running shot at the end part. We actually have to leap over to make it to the other side. And the gap between the two is that it finally stops being about us. All those previous ones are our stability, our survival, our security, our success, and also the negative sides, the scarcity side, our embarrassment, our failure, our disappointment, what other people might say to hurt us. And the second we can kind of say, we stop saying what might go wrong and we start asking who might it help, then we can kind of make that leap over to the other side and the boulder stops rolling back down.
Do you think people have to go through all of those prior steps to get to the significant?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, let me think about that for 100 years. I will say I for sure did. I think there is this, the thing that's coming up for me is I had Ian Morgan Cron on my podcast years ago, and he said the first half of life is like the parable of the talents. We're all just trying to make a profit with the gifts we've been given. But the second half of life is all about the parable of the prodigal son. We're all just trying to find our way back home. And so my second book, Slow Growth, that leads off with the premise that we have to arrive at this moment of at last exhausted. If I try to say to someone, you can't actually achieve for your worth, like it's not going to work out, and they're still trying, those words it's going to be like a clanging gong or a cymbal, right? Same way if I say to a business owner, you're going to burn out. You can't keep that pace. When people said that to us and we were like, okay, Grandpa, you don't know how fast we can go. And then when I said that to people, they were like, okay, Grandma, you don't know how fast I can go. So you have to reach that point for your own when you have run and run and run trying to achieve your way into worth, and you are at last exhausted. You put your face on the cold, hard ground, this death to self before the thrill of hope of a new thing begins. And then you can say, all right, we're done with that. Now the real work can begin. So for me, I had to go try. I had to go to Yale Law School. I had to, get a big book deal. I had to do a big speaking tour. I had to hit all the A+ and gold stars and still feel like there's no amount of more that can ever make you stop feeling less than. So I had to kind of get that out of my system before I could move forward. So I will say for me, I had to go through those steps. If anybody's listening and you can skip those steps, please do. Get to that place where you start from a place of who does this help? Because I promise you the other way just leads you to this burned out shell of yourself that takes a long time to recover from.
Thank you. Hey team, are you looking to elevate your golf game year-round? Nashville City Golf, located within the Nashville City Club at 200 2nd Avenue South, offers a premier indoor golfing experience right in the heart of downtown. With over 350 real-world courses available on state-of-the-art TrackMan.io simulators, you can challenge yourself on some of the world's most renowned fairways without leaving the city. Whether you're a seasoned golfer or just starting out, our facility caters to all skill levels. Features of the club include Trackman IO performance tracking, an adjustable swing stage, indoor putting, and great upscale lounge and food and beverage, as well as PGA instruction right on site. Nashville City Golf isn't just about swinging a club, it's about experiencing a revolution in golf practice and entertainment. Our cutting-edge features elevate your game and create an unforgettable experience. We offer flexible membership options to suit your needs, as well as booking for an individual sessions. Ready to tee off? Visit NashvilleCityGolf.com to learn more about memberships, book a session, or schedule a lesson with one of our PGA instructors. Elevate your game at Nashville City Golf, where the best of golf meets the best of Nashville. Let's talk about this imposter syndrome, and I think you refer to it as a sheet of thin ice. What helps you to get through it or avoid it, or how do you even define it? And the other thing I want you to talk about a little bit is that fear of failure. Lots of entrepreneurs have that. Lots of people are afraid to be successful, and they can't identify it as that. They don't know that that's what it is. But I work with so many people that get themselves to the brink of really crushing it. And for whatever reason, either self-sabotage or fear or something stops them.
Yeah. Well, we cover them all. I'll say you listed like 7 different chapters there.
Okay.
So that's good. Imposter syndrome was one of my favorite chapters to write because I say we, and I mean me, myself, and I. We go places that I don't think people usually go when they really are talking about imposter syndrome. It's another one of those words we've used so much we don't know what it means. And so I was able to actually dig into the study of the original psychologist, Clance and Imes, who first coined the phrase. And they actually called it imposter phenomenon in high-achieving women. And it's become known as imposter syndrome.
Was it specific to women?
Their study was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I say in the book, I like that better because syndrome makes me feel like the lone soul patient zero struggling with this like self-doubt virus. And phenomenon makes me feel like we're all in it together, battling this thing that's been let loose on the world, like locusts and earthquakes and TikTok dance videos. And so, one of the things they talk about is like, if you're feeling imposter syndrome, the good news is that you are in the domain of the high achiever, because it would not bother with you if you had settled for mediocrity. It's only the people who are doing bigger and bigger things. And I share all these quotes from actors like Tom Hanks, 2-time Academy Award winner, 6-time nominee Tom Hanks, who feels like it's all going to be taken away any second. And the better he does, Hermione Granger, Emma Watson says it's almost like the better I do, the worse I feel, because I feel like they're going to find me out. So imposter syndrome is really the fear of being found out. Chapter 5 in the book is not enough is a blank space. So if not enough is the feeling that you have a fatal flaw or a missing piece that's going to disqualify you, imposter syndrome is the fear that soon everybody else will realize it too. And so we really kind of go deep, and the ultimate solution that they talk about, Clance and Imes in their study, and really fits in with this idea of these small, simple shifts that move us forward anyway, out of fear, is that we have to look to the evidence of the contrary. I went to college on a full debate scholarship, and one of the things we would do is overwhelm our opponents with evidence to the contrary. And so we have to say, for every lie that goes, you're somebody who never prepares for things, you're such a fraud, list off 10 times that you actually really put in the effort to come in prepared. I am becoming a person who's prepared. You are allowed to become a new thing. And so when we think about failure in terms of that, we get to kind of define it, right? We can either say, I saw a great quote that said, every day you either win or you're being prepared. Every day is either a day that you win or you're being prepared. And so, if we have a day where it feels like, well, none of that worked, we just have new inputs to give that Bayesian brain theory on how to do it better next time. And I say that as somebody who really loves to get A+. I'm still mad about 1 B+ I got in college. So I know that's not easy, but it's given me a lot of freedom to go, when I was first writing a book, this is a really good example. I legitimately thought that I had to sit down and write the book start to finish, had to know how it was going to lay out in chronological order. It had to be perfect. I had to hand it off to a publisher. They would either say yes or no. And if they said no, Eminem style, I got 1 shot, do not miss your chance to blow. That would be it. I would be done. And then I realized that like life and in book writing, you actually get drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts, as many drafts as it takes to get it right. And so if you do it and it doesn't work, adjust, recalibrate, pivot, try again better with this time with more information.
And in our world, I call that test fast, fail fast, adjust fast.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. Test fast, fail fast, adjust fast.
Mhm.
Love that. It's good.
Your message is about courage and versus not confidence. And for someone listening who feels paralyzed by doubt today, what would you say to those people right now?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing, the most resonating message that's coming out of this book is two dots that connected for me, Chris, in a way that it's sort of like the high every writer's, waiting for, chasing. When two dots connect in a way you've never quite seen them connected before. And it was, what if fear attacks creatives because it itself is jealous that it's not creative at all? Short of being able to throw its voice to sound like you and to be able to be this shapeshifter who can change faces so quickly. So you think you've got your enemy under control coming in the front door as perfectionism, and it slips in the side doors, overthinking. What I came to do, I learned this all the way back from being a photographer and teaching photography courses, is that if I can give people really unexpected, very visual, visceral metaphors and imagery, then they can recall it much faster. They learn by story, like we said before. They learn by metaphor. And what that allows them to do is it allows them to catch fear in the act faster. So in chapter 4 with the missing handbook, I say, those of us without the missing handbook, it feels like we're walking around in the world without all the pertinent parts. Like Edward Scissorhands dropped down in the middle of some color-coded pastel suburban hell where the name of the game was always about blending in, and we inevitably break the rules because we do not know the rules, and we are somehow the ones who die death by 1,000 cuts. The next time somebody feels like, why do I feel like everybody else has all the information I don't, and no matter what I choose, it will be the wrong choice, they can go, missing handbook, Chad, pass the mashed potatoes, Edward Scissorhands. And I was on the This Changes Everything podcast with Sarah Rice, and she said, yeah, it's like in The Wizard of Oz where you pull back the curtain on the great, powerful Oz who scares off the cowardly lion.
Yeah.
And it's just a man standing behind the curtain. I said, yeah, a snake oil salesman, snake oil salesman who's trying to feed us a lie. And now he just becomes kind of this thing cowering behind the curtain. He doesn't leave the room, but we know who he is. We know his name, and all the power gets taken away. So that's what I would say is that, read the book, find out all the different faces of fear and be able to name it quickly and move forward anyway.
Amazing. Last thing, what's the next brave thing for you, even if it's scary? What's the next brave thing you're going to go do?
What is the next brave thing I'm going to go do? Oh boy. As we are currently recording this, I have 2.5 weeks until this book comes out. And I think like the brave thing I'm going to do is spend the next 19 days reaching for every reach, asking for every ask, sending every DM, booking every Instagram. Like I'm just going to be straight with you, and I bet you will resonate with this. As a person who grew up in a trailer, as a person who grew up in Appalachia, we are stoic people.
Right.
We do not like asking for help.
Right.
I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do the thing I don't love to do, and I'm going to ask for help for the next 2.5 weeks because I hate it, but I believe in this message so much, I'll be willing to do it. That was I didn't really want to give that answer.
That was awesome.
But that's the honest one. Yeah.
And isn't it funny the way we grew up, like that was an uncomfortable thing to get out of your mouth, where there's a certain set of people that wouldn't be any issue at all. That's how they get through the day.
That's right. Yeah.
Relying on others and asking for what they want. And where we just about feel guilty about that.
Yeah. 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 In chapter 10, Perfectionism is Hiding with Better PR, I talk about being very hyper independent, self-sufficient to the point of self-sabotage. And I walk around in the world with some like very specific sentences in my head. Like, I don't want you feeling any sympathy, shame on my behalf. Don't look away. Don't feel sorry for me. Mm-hmm. I don't, unless specifically asked, want your best advice, good suggestions, best practices. They burn in my ears, run down my throat, and taste like condescension. Don't worry about me, then I'll just have to worry about you worrying about me. And that whole section ends with, it turns out being really good at not needing people is a great way not to have any.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm going to spend 2.5 weeks needing people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So guys, let's wrap it up. So the book is Underestimated.
Yeah.
Where can they go?
Yeah, so I have two things to tell your people about.
Okay.
One of them is I introduce characters in slow growth, but they carry over into underestimated. They are called the achiever types.
Okay.
Masquerader, the contortionist, the illusionist in the distance. I am the classic performer. I'm always on my toes. I want to show myself how far I've come, but other people, especially how far I've come. The tightrope walker could care less who's clapping, but they need higher and higher death-defying feats to feel the same amount of good. The masquerader hides in plain sight, shoves other people into the spotlight to distract from themselves. The contortionist is the classic people pleaser. We contort because it is easier than to be criticized. And the illusionist in the distance believes that all the conditions to begin and they themselves must be perfect before they can even start. And so if you go to achieverquiz.com, the quiz takes 2 minutes, 10 minutes if you overthink it. It will tell you not only what your achiever type is, the questions are really fun and lighthearted and easy, and then we go deep in true Mary style in the results of what your type is, where you get tripped up playing small, and how we move forward. And so that's achieverquiz.com. And then at namethefear.com, we have actually put up there where your people, Chris, can actually download today and read the entire first chapter for free. Fantastic. Get a feel for my writing and that sort of plays on words and the visual metaphors I was talking about. And while they're there, if they want to pre-order, we actually have all the way up through launch week, the entire audiobook as a bonus, which is a huge deal. A lot of publishers won't do that, but mine did.
Wow.
So you get really 2 books for the price of one to highlight and underline, and one where I will whisper sweet nothings to you as I read all this book.
Did you read it?
I did. Yeah.
Radio?
Yeah. So that's namethefear.com. And I'm at Mary Marantz on Instagram, Marantz. Come tell me what your achiever type is, or if you listen to the episode.
This has been great.
It has.
Guys out there and gals out there, go follow Mary. She is a spark for sure, and easy to be around. Yeah. And for sure. MaryMarantz.com.
By the way.
Yeah, I wish you a ton of luck with this book. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
It's good. I'm telling you, it's good. Yeah. Read it.
Yeah, we will. Okay, guys, if you like this episode, go tell everybody you know about it and subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, all the places where you normally get your podcast. Mary also has a podcast.
Yes, yeah, the Mary Marantz Show. Chris is going to be on it in a couple weeks.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Let's go. Right. So
we'll
thanks a ton for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.